13, we already read verse 16 about the mark going in the right hand or in the forehead. We read verse 17 that talks about nobody can buy or sell unless he gets that mark. Verse 18 talks about having wisdom to understand this subject. And then the very next verse in chapter 14, verse 1, John says, I looked, and lo, a lamb, and a lamb is a symbol of Jesus, was standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written where? In their foreheads. So right after the first time the mark of the beast is mentioned, which is chapter 13, verse 16 and 17, 2 verses later, another group is mentioned called the 144,000. And they have the name of the Father written in their foreheads. So one group gets the mark in the forehead, the other group gets the name of God in the forehead. You see that? And this is very simple. I mean, you can explain this without even doing the interpretation. You can just explain the issues. And so we think about God's people, the 144,000, getting the name of God in their forehead. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to have really big foreheads and that God is going to take some kind of a super stylus pen or some heavenly pen that's going to write something on the skin of the 144,000? Name of God on the forehead. Is that what this means? Or is this talking about something more than skin deep? It's significant to realize that it's not just the devil's people that get something in the forehead. God's people get something in the forehead as well. Both sides get something in the forehead. Now go to chapter 17. 17:15. Chapter 17 talks about the harlot, the Babylonian harlot. In one of my series, we have a whole message called The Scarlet Harlot and the Woman in White, where we talk about this lady. Chapter 17, verse 5, talks about this woman, Mystery Babylon, and notice verse 5 says, upon her what? Her forehead. There's the word forehead again. Was a name written. There's another name. Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, abominations of the earth. Now, Revelation 17 talks about a woman riding a 7-headed, 10-horned beast. And she has this mysterious name on her forehead, Mystery Babylon. Now, is that literal or symbolic? Is there going to be a time when some mysterious woman, rides into Earth's history, crashing into our modern world, riding a 7-headed, 10-horned beast, and have all the news agencies, CNN and Fox News, Bret Hume and Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and all the major media players out there, are they going to be saying, let's discuss this? Let's discuss this woman that is riding a 7-headed, 10-horned beast, and she's marching around the world. Is that going to happen? Obviously not. Obviously not. This is a symbol. And so here we have a woman which is symbolic, and her forehead, the name is there, and this is obviously a symbol. It's not literal. God is trying to teach us something from this, but here is an example in the book of Revelation where the name in the forehead is obviously used in a symbolic way, right in the book of Revelation. Are you with me? Okay, now go to chapter 22 and look at verse 4. And it wouldn't hurt if you're taking notes, to write all these texts down. These are verses that you can use during that 902 moment when the time hits and the mark is enforced and God has people around the world that are standing up and saying, let me explain what's happening, and the cameras are on you, and you can open your Bible and you can show people these texts without even knowing history or all the details. You can lay the foundation very simple just by doing this. Okay, chapter 22, verse 4. This is the last chapter of the Bible. This is talking about God's people, all God's people, not just the 144,000, but all of the saved throughout all ages. Verse 4 says, they shall see his face, which is the face of God, and his name shall be where? In their foreheads. There it is again. The forehead is used again. It's used in chapter 13, it's chapter 14, chapter 17, and chapter 22. Now, do you think this means that all the people of God, all throughout history, when we're finally in heaven, when we're in God's kingdom, that we're going to have names on our heads where, you can look and see, oh, I can see a name on your skin or, right between your eyes, above your nose? Is that going to happen? My little boy, it was so, I don't know what the word is. I mean, it was so inspiring to me. During your cradle roll class, just during Sabbath school, just a little while ago, I heard Alan give his talk this morning. It was excellent. Then I popped out and went over to the cradle roll room, and I saw my little son, Seth. He's now 19 months old, and he had a little crown of gold on his head, and he had a little cape on, and they had a golden little tarp, a golden rug that was in the middle of the room, and they were walking on the streets of gold. And they were marching around this little tarp, and it was great for me to look at this little kid and all the little kids and see him with his little crown and his little cape walking on the streets of gold. And I thought, how precious. How I just long to see my son and my wife and my family in heaven. Now, when he gets up there, is he going to have something written on his skin? Or is this talking about something more than skin deep? When you read the Bible, there are many verses. Exodus 34 talks about God proclaiming his name, and it says his name is merciful, gracious, long-suffering, abundant in goodness and truth. There are many verses that talk about God's name representing his character. And when he writes his name in the foreheads of his people, this means he's writing his character in their minds and in their hearts. And it's important to discover, this is a secret, unsealed, that in the book of Revelation, eventually, everybody is going to get something in their foreheads. You are, and so am I. It's either going to be the devil's mark in the forehead, or it's going to be the name and the character of God in the forehead. Right? We're all going to get something. And guess what? We're all getting something right now. Writing is going on right now. It doesn't just only happen at the end when all of a sudden the end comes and then everybody gets something up here. Things are up here already, aren't they? And as we make decisions day by day, and as we read our Bibles, and as we go one direction or another, something is being written in our foreheads. And the final crisis simply crystallizes and clarifies what's been going on inside people's heads for a long time. So it makes it real practical and very, very personal. The forehead would represent what? The mind, your thoughts. And then what would your hand represent? Your actions, right, what you do, your lifestyle. And God is concerned about both. God's concerned about what's happening in our heads, and God is concerned about the things that we do. Both. And that's part of the deeper issue of what the mark of the beast is all about. We're talking about things that are very, very deep. Now let's go back to chapter 14. Revelation 14. And let's look at verse 9. More puzzle pieces. And you can do this. I'm not just a preacher, but I'm a teacher. And I don't want to just inspire you. I hope to inspire you. But I want to teach you how to do this in front of other people when the cameras are on you, not just on me. Okay, Revelation 14, verse 9 says, "The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, 'If any man worships the beast and his image and receive,'" and there's a little word there in between receive and mark. And what's that? His mark. The mark of the beast, this seems obvious, but it's something we need to really grasp. The mark of the beast is the mark of the beast, whoever or whatever the beast is. And if we're going to understand the mark, we have to know who the beast is. If we're wrong about the beast, we're going to be wrong about the mark. If you go to chapter 17, verse 2, it says the same thing. I'm sorry, chapter 15, verse 2. 15, verse 2 talks about people who get the victory over the beast. "I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over," and what's that next word? His mark. Over his mark. Right, they stood on the sea of glass having